Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Rasco Garage. Today we're going to be getting into some maintenance on my Harbor Freight bandsaw. So, I'm sure some of you out there have also acquired Old Red, the central machinery special from Harbor Freight to get your feet wet and some fabrication, metal cutting, pipe cutting, you name it. So, today's the day. I have to change the blade on the saw itself. My blade's getting a little bit dull. Some of my cuts were getting a lot of metal shavings, a little rough around the edges. I'm doing a lot of exhaust stuff lately and looking to clean up my cuts just a bit. So I'll show you the step-by-step process of how to change your blade on your machine. So let me show you what I have over here on my bench and the tools you're going to need to do the job. So first up, we have the blade. Let me show you what the saw looks like first. So here is the Harbor Freight Special. It's the central machinery unit itself. So it's in the vertical setting, but it's a horizontal vertical bandsaw. If this saw looks familiar to you, then I hope this video is helpful. So this is the saw that we have. So for this particular unit, what you're going to need, and I'll also list the exact model in the description, the description below, so you can follow along as well. So what we have here is the Supercut is the brand. I also got this from Harbor Freight. This is one of their higher end saw blades. Here's all the information you need in terms of specs and the SKU number, 64.5 inch by half inch by 0.025 blade thickness. This one was a little bit more pricey, it was $27.99, but this one is specifically for mild steel and stainless steel. It's not a steel / wood combo or like anything like that. I am primarily cutting stainless steel. So the tools you're going to need, recommend getting a set of shop gloves because we're going to be handling the blade, that way you don't get cut on the teeth itself. You're going to need Phillips head screwdriver and a 14mm socket. So before we get into it, I'll get the camera set up. We'll get it over here on the tripod and then we'll go through the step-by-step process of replacing your saw blade. Okay, first things first, we've got to take it from the horizontal orientation to the vertical orientation. But before we do that, safety first, let's unplug it. So like I said, we're going to have the saw blade and everything going. We're removing it, so we don't want it to turn on by accident. Okay, next step, let's lock it in. There's this little locking piece here. You put it right here in this little, it's like a little slot that it goes into right here. Okay, put it in there. We'll finger tight it, and then we'll go get the socket. So 14mm. Most of these bolts that you need to make adjustments with here or here on the cutting deck or the support rather. Oops. Let's try that again. Alright, just snug it up. Yeah, like I said, all the adjustments bolts are 14mm. So if you got to move your backstop around or whatnot. Okay, so next thing we're going to do, so we're going to come over here to this side. This is the shroud that has the blade behind it. So this is just one bolt, and this comes all the way out. And this will reveal the saw blade itself. So just set that anywhere here. Okay. Open this door up here. Okay, so now we have the blade exposed. Now the blade is in a very taut position, it's under tension. Okay, so our adjustment knob for the blade itself is right here. This is a blade tensioner. So all we're going to do is just loosen this. Okay, and you'll notice, if you can see it here, the wheel is going to start going down. There it goes. Okay, so now the blade itself, we have some playing it. So I'm gonna need 2 hands for this, but right here, there is a blade shroud that basically holds the blade in place, right? Because right now, in this orientation, we cannot remove it because it's in here. The running wheels are right here, or the guide wheels, whatever these are called. So there's 2 Phillips bolts right here. So you can loosen it up and then we'll back these out. So we'll have to just bring the wheel up just a touch to access that top one. Let's see, there we go. All right, I'll go get the screwdriver and we'll start pulling those out. Okay, so for this step here, I got my gloves on because I got to handle the saw blade. So I got the blade loosened. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rest it off to the side right here. That will give me enough leeway here that now I can move the wheel up to access this top screw that I just showed you. So with no blade on the wheel, we can move the wheel up far enough. Okay. And you don't need to back these screws out all the way. You can just loosen them and then we'll be able to pull the shroud off here. So now the shroud is completely off, and then we'll just pop the blade out of the running wheel. Okay, so now we have the old blade off and out of here. Let's go get the new blade and put it in. All right, so got the new blade here. Just be careful when you're opening it up. It's gonna basically pop open. Okay, that's why the gloves are important, right? Okay, so now remember we had this thing pulled up because of the bolts here. So we got to lower this back down, or excuse me, the screws rather, for the guide. Okay, we're going to lower this down. We're going to thread these things in here. You basically just have it sitting here, nice and loose. So now we can raise this thing back up, and we got to get our belt guide back in. So it goes in this orientation. So there's a little bit of a notch here, you can see it. So that goes in the downward facing position. So, and this thing, let's see if I can get all this stuff to stay in here. So this part here, the blade actually goes down this spot here. The blade actually goes inside this unit. So when we slide it in, we're going to put it in this orientation, and the blade is going to be actually in this little trough here. All right, so now we got this thing. Okay, back into place. Just gonna snug both screws in, make sure our fitment is good. Now this guide bracket should be flush against the frame of the saw itself. Okay, that's good there. All right, so now that we have the blade guide, we have it seated in these locations nicely. Just make sure you push back on it. It's nice and snug. So now we can go ahead and loosen the tensioner again, because now we want to fit up the blade. Okay, so get the blade on the top, feed the blade in the housing itself, and then walk it right along the bottom wheel here. See if we can get any more tension out of this. There we go. Lower it down. There we go. Oop, got my glove. Okay. So now I got it on the wheels. So push the blade all the way back until it's flush. Until it's flush against the wheel. Inside each wheel here is a lip on the back. So you want to make sure the blade is all the way on that. Make sure the blade is flush here, all the way back. Make sure the blade is flush on the guide wheels here. Okay. So now that everything is seated properly, I just grab it and kind of wiggle it up and down just to make sure it's seated here on all the guide wheels. Everything's good. It's pushed back on the wheel itself. So now we can begin to tension the blade. You don't need to go fast. Just move it right along. Make sure everything's still good. Alright. You don't want to over tighten it by any means, but you want it to get it pretty snug. There we go. Okay, everything's still good. Alright, so the blade's on. Alright, so this little locking nut right here to close the housing. Okay, so there you have it. Where you change the blade in our Harbor Freight Central Machinery bandsaw, or the vertical horizontal bandsaw. Changing the blade's pretty straightforward, so I hope you found this video helpful. It's always good to know how to service your equipment, so if you need to calibrate it, make adjustments, change your blade, tension, so on and so forth, it's just nice to be able to get into it and understand how your machine works. So, like I said, hopefully this video helped you along the way. You know the deal. Like, comment, subscribe, smash the like button. Appreciate the help. If you have any questions, drop me a comment, and like I said, I'll put the link to the saw itself in the description below if you're looking or in the market to get a bandsaw. So thanks for watching. Till next time on Rasco Garage.